Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today's first story follows two brothers who finally carve out a rare day together, only for old family tension to sneak its way into the trip. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with a turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. When guilt trips meet rock cliffs, a brotherly revenge story. I got married very, very young, younger than anyone in my family thought was wise, and because of that, I always carried this nagging guilt that my 5 younger siblings felt like I'd abandoned them. I went from being the older brother who played video games with them, drove them around, and broke up their squabbles, to the guy juggling a wife, a kid, and a full-time job. I still tried to hang out with them whenever I could, but it was never as often as I wanted. Every visit felt like I was trying to make up for lost big brother time. So when I finally carved out a whole day for a rock climbing trip with my brother, I was actually excited. Quality bonding, out in nature, doing something adventurous. It felt like what we used to do before life got complicated. But the moment he got into the car, he made a big show of things. He pulled out the elaborate lunch my mom had packed him, sandwiches, chips, snacks, 2 sodas, even one of those fancy little desserts she only makes for people she really likes. And in the most theatrical voice possible, he sighed and said, "Wow, Mom really outdid herself. Too bad she didn't pack enough for both of us." I knew exactly what he was doing. My brother and my mom are subtle as a bowling ball when they want to get a dig in. The message was obvious. Maybe if you came around more, someone would pack your lunch too. I could practically hear my mom's voice through him. But I let it slide. We were there to climb, not relitigate my life choices. Hours later, after a few good climbs, it was finally his turn to descend. I was belaying him, watching him inch his way down the rock face, when he reached about the halfway point, still far too high to jump down, not high enough to climb back up easily. A beautiful, wicked idea dawned on me. I tied off the rope. Not dangerously, just enough to keep him stuck right where he was without slack. Then I called out, "Hang tight," and walked away. Literally. I strolled back to the car, opened his lunch bag, and proceeded to enjoy every single thing my mother had lovingly packed for him. The sandwiches, gone. Chips, delicious. The dessert, glorious. I even cracked open his sodas like I was at a picnic. Every now and then I'd glance over at him, dangling there, gesturing wildly, calling my name in increasingly irritated tones. I waved cheerfully and kept eating. I swear, that man has never forgiven me. In a way, I feel that he has me to thank for his career, since shortly after this he became a cop, presumably so that he could shoot me if I ever did anything like this to him again. Silly people. The way to get someone to spend more time with them is to make doing this more enjoyable, not less. If they'd invited you and your wife and child to family meals or other such activities, they would have seen you more often and could have gained a better relationship with all of you. It wasn't supposed to be a contest to see who could claim more of you. And our second story. She borrowed sugar, clothes, and perfume. Then she demanded $50, ignored our sleeping sign, and exploded when we said no. Okay, so my fiance and I currently live in a sober living facility for couples. We've been here since March and are about to graduate next month. There's another couple in the program that just moved in upstairs. The female, we'll call her Kate, has been constantly asking us for things ever since she and her husband moved in 2 weeks ago. For more background, my fiance has a good-paying job, but we're trying to save every penny we can to get our own apartment. Because if we don't have one by the time we graduate, we'll literally be out on the street. So while I don't mind helping people when I can, I'm not in a place where I can really afford to help other people. I'm barely staying afloat myself. It started out small, a cup of sugar here, an egg there, then it escalated. She started asking for money for bus fare, to borrow my perfume, and even to wear my clothes. I've been where she is, coming off the streets with nothing, so I've tried to be as generous as I can, but today pushed it way too far. My fiance and I were laying down for a nap. We even had a sign on the door that said, "We're sleeping," but sure enough, she came knocking anyway. My fiancé does not handle being woken up well, especially when someone is rude enough to blatantly ignore the damn sign. So when he answered the door, he had a bit of an attitude. Instead of apologizing, she immediately burst into fake tears, saying her baby needed formula and she needed $50 to send to her mom, or her mom was going to terminate her rights. My fiance asked when she could pay it back, and she said she didn't know, but not to worry, that she would definitely pay him back as soon as she could. He told her he couldn't just give away $50, and if she expected him to loan it to her, he was going to have some sort of time frame. She got huffy and snapped, "I literally just told you I'd pay it back." And he finally was just like, "Yeah, I would if I could, but crap's tight right now, so I can't really afford it. Sorry." That's when she suddenly claimed she could pay it back tomorrow. Obviously, that was a lie, and we both knew it. So he told her we couldn't do it and shut the door. A few minutes later, we heard her cussing outside our door, saying things like, "I'll know better than to ask anyone around here for effing help again, and I can't wait till a mother effer asks me for something." But the real kicker was, "It takes a cold piece of crap to let a baby go hungry." Excuse me? Ain't nobody letting your baby go hungry but you and your man. I'm not a piece of crap, and I would never let a child starve. If I knew where that baby actually was, I'd go buy formula and take it to her mom myself. But I'm not handing $50 to someone I know damn well is not going to spend it on her child. And I'm damn sure not going to loan it to someone who I know is lying to my face about paying me back. I'm a recovering addict too. I know the games. I've played them all. And even if what she said about her mom was true, which I doubt it was, the fact that her mom is willing to so easily terminate her rights just lets me know that this has been an ongoing thing with her. She's obviously not taking care of her child and hasn't been for a while, or her mom wouldn't be getting this fed up with her crap. We've never told her no before. We've given and given. But $50 in hard-earned money is a hell of a lot different than a cup of sugar, especially when we're saving every dime to avoid homelessness, which is exactly what her and her man should be doing. They're both perfectly capable of getting jobs just like the rest of us. It's not my responsibility to take care of two grown adults. The audacity of some people never ceases to amaze me. It's important to recognize that providing small occasional help does not obligate you to solve someone else's crisis, especially when that crisis is being exaggerated or misrepresented. Kate viewed your kindness as a resource she could tap whenever she hit discomfort, not true need. And when she discovered that access had limits, she reacted with entitlement instead of gratitude. And our next story. A lady used her phone the entire movie. When we called her out, I made sure my scolding was G-rated so her husband had nothing to weaponize. One day we went to see The Accountant 2. Not exactly a cinematic masterpiece, but a solid grab some popcorn and escape life for 2 hours kind of movie. My wife and I were looking forward to just zoning out and enjoying it. A few rows ahead sat a woman around our age, mid-50s, nicely dressed. Nothing about her screaming problem. But the moment the preview started, she flicked her phone on, bright screen, full glare, then off, then on again. My wife noticed it right away. I didn't, because she was angled toward my wife's side. My wife, being patient to a fault, let the first couple of times slide. But then the movie actually starts. 10 minutes in, and this woman decides the middle of a dark theater is the perfect place for a full-blown phone conversation. Not whispering, not stepping outside, a conversation. Voice up, screen glowing like a lighthouse. My wife leaned forward politely and said in a calm, neutral tone, "Please turn off your cell phone." And everyone shocked, the woman actually did. She clicked it off and went silent. We thought that was the end of it. It should have been the end of it. But entitled people don't let things go. They store them like petty little squirrels collecting grievances. The movie ended. Lights came up, people stretched, and as we stood to leave, this woman turned around with her arms crossed, an attitude radiating off her like steam. Her: "Was my cell phone bothering you?" My wife, still polite as ever: "Well, yes, it was." Her: "How was it bothering you?" Wife: "It was distracting during the movie. You aren't supposed to have your phone on." The woman snorted, and said in the most condescending tone imaginable, "My little phone distracted you from that big screen?" Wife: "Yes, it was bright, and you were talking." Her: "Well, what am I supposed to tell my grandchildren when I don't answer them?" Wife: "Tell them you're in a movie and you can't talk right now." That should have been common sense, kindergarten-level logic, but this lady wasn't letting it go. Her: "I don't understand how you get to..." And that's when my patience evaporated. Me: "Unbelievable. You were not allowed to have a cell phone on during a movie. and you're trying to make us the bad guys? Just shut your entitled butt up. Yes, I said butt. Clean, G-rated, impossible to twist into he cursed at me. I even kept my hands at my sides and my voice loud but controlled. I wasn't giving her husband any ammunition. Her husband, who'd been silent the entire movie, suddenly perked up, eyes wide. Husband, did he? Me, turning to my wife, let's go. And we walked out before Captain, I only stand up for my wife when she's wrong, tried to puff out his chest. As we left the theater lobby, I felt that mix of adrenaline and disbelief, the cocktail you get only from dealing with people who are wrong yet somehow convinced they're the victims. Because here's the thing that drives me absolutely insane. Entitled people break rules, cause a disruption, make everything harder for everyone around them, and then act like the people who call them out are the true offenders. It's like they live in an opposite world where accountability is cruelty and basic courtesy is oppression. My wife wasn't rude. She wasn't confrontational. She didn't shame the woman. She didn't yell. She just said, please turn off your cell phone. A normal person would respond with, oh, sorry, and move on with their life. But this woman, she acted like my wife had committed a federal crime by suggesting she follow the same rule every other patron in the theater manages to obey. And the grandkids' excuse? Lady, if a real emergency happens, the theater staff will come get you. What your grandchildren were texting you about was probably something like, Grandma, look what my cat just did. Not worth derailing a movie theater for everyone else. But most of all, her reaction revealed the truth. She didn't care about her grandkids. She didn't care about emergencies. She cared about being told no. She cared about someone, especially another woman, daring to correct her. As we walked out to the parking lot, my wife just shook her head and said, some people really can't handle being wrong. No kidding. I can deal with clueless people. I can deal with forgetful people. Heck, I can even deal with inconsiderate people who apologize once they realize they messed up. But the ones who double down, who twist things to make you the villain, who act like their comfort outweighs everyone else's experience, those are the ones I can't stand. And judging by that woman's behavior, I don't think this was her first theatrical meltdown. Hopefully, someone else someday gives her the reality check she desperately needs, because clearly hearing it once wasn't enough. And our last story. Farmer thought he was clever, cheating his workers. They were cleverer, destroying his farm. This story stretches back nearly 40 years, and in the beginning it didn't look like a feud that would swallow a man's entire life. Back then, a farmer, let's call him Harold, was mostly known for being cheap, mean-spirited, and impossible to trust. He would hire seasonal workers, promise one wage, and pay half. Anyone who challenged him faced threats. He'd call the authorities, claim they were undocumented, or accuse them of trespassing. He scared off enough people that he thought he'd figured out the perfect tussle. He hadn't. The men he cheated weren't interested in confronting him face-to-face. Instead, they went after what Harold valued above everything else, his fields. At first, it was subtle, a scattering of wildflowers around the border of his property, bright yellows and purples peeking through his crops, flowers that had no business growing there. Removing them cost him nearly $25,000 the first time. He grumbled, cursed the sky, and moved on. But the blooms kept coming. Every few weeks, the same explosion of color erupted across Harold's acreage. He'd tear the land apart to remove the flowers, only for new ones to appear. Tens of thousands in losses turned into hundreds of thousands. He never saw a trespasser, never found footprints, never caught a single person. It was like nature itself had declared war on him. By the time the damage passed $500,000, Harold's farm was collapsing. He borrowed money from his younger brother, Samuel, hoping to keep the operation alive, but the debts grew faster than the crops. When Harold finally sold the land at a devastating loss, Samuel stepped in, bought it, divided it, and sold the parcels to neighbors. He not only recovered the money Harold owed him, but turned a healthy profit. Harold lost everything: pride, land, income, reputation. He limped into town and tried to start a handyman business, but karma was already waiting. Some of the very people he'd threatened years earlier quietly backed a rival business. They underbid him at every turn until Harold stopped getting calls altogether. Eventually, the truth behind the brothers' past surfaced. Harold had only inherited the land because he lied to their father decades earlier. He told them that Samuel had gotten a local girl pregnant and abandoned her. Furious, their father disowned Samuel and sent him out of town with nothing. Samuel spent years as a traveling salesman, eventually buying a ranch in Texas and building something real from scratch. He never forgot what Harold stole from him. He never forgave it either. And as for the legendary wildflowers that destroyed Harold's farm, that story stayed a mystery until someone finally let the truth slip. It wasn't a midnight saboteur sneaking through fields. It wasn't the laborers Harold cheated. It wasn't even Samuel. It was the neighbor's son-in-law, a crop dusting pilot. Every time he flew over his own family's property, he'd bank slightly to the side, open the chute, and dump a 50-pound sack of wildflower seeds directly over Harold's fields. One pass, clean, quiet, impossible to trace. Year after year, he reseeded Harold's land from the sky. His motive was simple. Harold had repeatedly stolen hay from their family and never returned an expensive farm tool he borrowed. The wildflower war continued until there was nothing left for Harold to save. Today, Harold lives in a rusting trailer outside of town doing farmhand work for the same people who now own pieces of what used to be his land. He's old, bitter, still convinced the world wronged him. Samuel, on the other hand, retired comfortably years ago. He never asked the sky to take revenge for him. Harold did all that on his own. Because in the end, everyone who knows the story says the same thing. Harold planted the first lie. The wildflowers were just karma returning the favor. There's a difference between hardship and consequence, and Harold spent decades blurring that line for himself. He acted as though the world owed him obedience, then grew outraged when people stopped tolerating it. The wildflower sabotage only succeeded because the community didn't step in to defend him. They'd seen enough to decide he wasn't worth protecting. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.